Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today we're going to be talking about everybody's favorite Tier 10 Italian battleship, the Colombo, the new Italian battleship. Well, of course it's new, the line just came out. So, some of her base stats, if you're unaware of the Colombo, she has 16 15-inch guns. It's a whole lot of guns at Tier 10, the highest number of guns at Tier 10, in fact. She has a 38-second base reload time, which you can get down to 33 seconds with the reload module. She has an 18.9 kilometer base range, 20 kilometers-ish with spotter. I think it's up to over like 21, 22 kilometers with the spotter playing active. She also has pretty darn good survivability. Her armor is fairly decent. It's not the best armor at Tier 10, but she's pretty well detected. She's got an icebreaker bow. She has an almost submerged citadel and a kind of turtleback citadel that protects against cruiser AP. But she has pretty good armor, but she does have a lower HP pool at 89,000, which is on the lower side for Tier 10. She, of course, has her exhaust smoke generator, where when you push the Y button, you get a smoke screen that follows you around, even if you're moving at maximum speed, which is very helpful in disengaging from unfavorable situations. She has 360-degree rear turrets. Those turrets in the back can loop all the way around, no problem, which gives her pretty good firing angles from the bow. And she, of course, has great AP. She has that great high-velocity Italian AP, just like the Roma. So if you've played the Roma, you know how great that AP is when it connects. And she also gets semi-armor-piercing shells, which hit like a friggin' truck. If you hit a ship in the correct area, it's fairly easy to get 25 to 30k salvos with SAP if most of your shells connect, just because you're throwing 16 shells at the target, even though they are 15-inch shells. Now, 15-inch shells at Tier 10 may sound small, which yes, they are, but again, with SAP, it really doesn't matter. You don't need to overmatch the bow of a battleship if you're chunking their superstructure in lightly armored sections for 25 to 30k. So, the Colombo. The title of this video, I believe, should be something along the lines of the right battleship for the wrong meta. Meaning that simply, if Colombo came out 2 years ago, this would have been an absolutely fantastic battleship and a great meta. Now, 2 years ago is kind of where the sniping meta first started to really lean in, but there was still plenty of matches that were at pretty close range. And since then, we've got, of course, increased the engagement ranges further and further and further away due to certain ships being introduced, certain reworks happening, certain commander skills being added, and over time, engagement ranges are just, I mean, even today, well, of course today with Deadeye still out there, they're very far away. It's not rare to get in a match where you don't get within 15 kilometers of the enemy ship until like the last 5 minutes of the battle. So that's pretty bad for, well, battleships. I'm speaking in terms of battleships here, by the way, to not get within 15 kilometers of another ship until that late in the match. Whereas a couple of years ago, you weren't just sprinting in there in the first 5 minutes, but definitely within the first 10 or so minutes, the battleships were far closer than they were than they are today. And this is where the Colombo hits the biggest speed bump for me. So I guess this may be kind of a Colombo second impressions video. But, I mean, I still think the ship's great. The ship is great when it can get into those situations where it's within, heck, just in range of an enemy ship. Currently with Deadeye, the dispersion is pretty good. And, of course, Deadeye is leaving in 10-4. But I'm expecting Wargaming to give the ship some type of buff, because there's no way, the Colombo and the Flanders and any other battleship that came out during the Commander rework wasn't designed with the Commander rework and with Deadeye in mind. And you'll see later in this match, I'm fighting a GK from, I think, like 5 or 6 kilometers away. And Deadeye's not active, of course, because he's well within my detection range by then. And the dispersion is absolutely horrid. And I get like okay damage because it is SAP, but it is really, really, really bad. And that's what the dispersion is going to be like once Deadeye leaves, if they don't buff it in some way. But we'll see what happens then. But as of right now, with the Colombo, I've been playing her a whole lot, because I do enjoy her. But I'm finding myself in more and more matches where I'm simply just sailing around doing nothing, because everything's out of my range. And I'm trying, of course, to get in range, But the way these matches are going now at higher tier, it's like a race to get to the 1 line or the 10 line, depending upon what side you're on. And Colombo ain't that fast. And I don't think Swift and Silence is going to help her out any bit at all to catch up to these ships. And that's not the Colombo's fault. That's just the meta. A tier 10 battleship with a base 18.9 kilometer range could have worked fine 2 years ago. But now, no. I mean, heck, even GK has a 20 kilometer range if you don't build into the range module. So why don't you just build into the range module in Colombo? Because now you have a 38-second reload time. 38 seconds. The only other ship at tier 10 that has a reload time close to that is, of course, the Vermont with a 40-second reload time. But she also has fantastic range. So she doesn't have to worry about being in range. Pretty much the whole map's in range with the Vermont. She only has to move up a line or two, and she's got, well, the enemy spawn in range as well. And the spotter plane, this is the only tier 10 battleship where I keep the spotter plane equipped for random battles. For clan battles, I used to keep the fighter equipped because of the CVs, but before the CVs, it was spotter all the way to there. But in random battles, I mostly keep the fighter equipped because of CVs, and the fighter is really the only way you have to reliably make the CV pay for hitting you when it works, and it still doesn't work correctly wargaming. Please solve that. But the Colombo, I keep the spotter plane equipped. And that's because that's the only way this ship can be relevant in the early game and even sometimes into the mid game. Because that's the only way you're getting shots out over 20 kilometers with this ship. And yes, I know, you could put the range module on, and maybe I should, but like a 38-second reload, I don't think it has 16 guns, but a 38-second reload is just a little harsh, I think, for the Colombo. So, how do we fix this? There's a couple of ways we can do this, a couple of easy solutions. I've got 3 right here for today. So, the first solution I have is to give it a special spotter consumable. Something maybe like the Lazo consumable, where if you don't know the Lazo, the tier 7 Soviet cruiser, her spotter has a 10-second cooldown time. Now, maybe it doesn't have to be that extreme for the Colombo. And keep in mind, we're just talking about getting its range out to a little over 20 kilometers. I'm not trying to turn this thing into a sniper. I don't want it to be a sniper, but to function in the current meta, it needs a little bit more range. I mean, it can do okay now, but you're very, very, very much dependent upon trying to make sure you can get in close somewhere in the match and get a decent bit of damage in. Because, like this match you're watching right now, I was very lucky that I was able to do the damage that I did, which wasn't even a whole lot by tier 10 standards. And this exact same situation has played out several times, and by several I mean at least 20 or 30, over the amount of games that I've played in Colombo so far, and I've almost been playing her exclusively over the past few days, her and of course the new German DDs as well. But anyway, so we could give her something like the Lazo fighter. I'm not saying a 10-second cooldown time, maybe like a 20 or 30-second cooldown time. You know, you have to wait a salvo until the plane is ready to go up again. And because, too, like, who actually runs out of fighter consumables? Even with the reduced number we get today, not fighter, spotter consumables, even with the reduced number that we get today. I mean, back in the day, we used to have, like, what, 8 fighter or spotter consumables on our ships for our catapult planes, and there's literally no mathematical way you could burn through all of those consumables in one match, because the matches only last 20 minutes either way. And that way you will have, of course, more time that you can spend shooting at 20-21 kilometers, which again isn't even that far by tier 10 standards, certainly not that far by the meta today. Or we could, of course, increase your base range by 1.1 kilometer to 20 kilometers to where you have a 20 kilometer base range, which I think is, again, reasonable. And keep in mind, too, the ship isn't a great sniper. I'm not saying it needs to be able to accurately hit at this range. I'm just saying she needs to be able to do something at that range, because there's many matches where you're just sitting there looking at everything outside of your range, just like, I can't do anything right now. I'm powerless to do anything. And I'm trying to get in range too. Again, like I'm saying, I'm trying to engage these targets, but there simply isn't enough range on the Colombo to do that. Something else they could do too is, of course, lower the base reload time from something like 38 seconds to maybe 35 seconds, or somewhere around 34 maybe. That way you could take the range module and still have an okay-ish reload time. I really do think 38 seconds is a bit too much for the reload for the Colombo. I know it has 16-inch guns. Oh, no, it has 16 guns. I know it's got sap. I know it throws a lot of shells at the target, and there are times where it can hit the target pretty darn good, but again, we are losing Deadeye in 10-4, and we don't know for sure whether or not they're going to buff the ship once Deadeye is gone. Again, I think they very much should, but we'll see when we come to that. But for sure, if they don't buff the dispersion, the reload time for sure has to come down, because waiting 38 seconds for the dispersion that you guys should be seeing right now is a joke, in my opinion. So that's nothing that they could do to bring the Colombo, more close in line to the meta. Now, I know they're still going to wait for a very long time to make changes, probably either way. We are probably going to have to play the Colombo for some time without Deadeye, without any changes being made, because look back to the Richtofen, look back to the Kremlin, look at back to, well, any recent tier 10 that's been put out, the Petro even. They took multiple months to make changes to those ships. In the cases of those 3 ships, they were all nerfs. So it'll probably be a couple of months, unfortunately, where the Colombo's going to suffer, which is a shame, because this is a very good ship still, in my mind. It's just getting into those situations where you can simply use your guns. It's such a chore in the ship. Like, you literally have to chase the enemy team around the map sometimes just to get some damage in. Just to get a decent bit of damage in, like this match you're watching right here. So that's my spiel on the Colombo for now. She's still a good ship when you get into those situations. It's just, again, getting to those situations is just such a headache now at high tier because of the nature of high tier gameplay. Keep in mind, too, she has 18.9 kilometer base range. The Massachusetts has 18.8 kilometers max range. So this tier 10 Techline ship only has 100 meters on a tier 8 battleship. So yeah, I think that's just a little bit silly. Again, I'm not trying to turn the ship into a sniper or anything. I'm just trying to get the ship to where she can be a bit more relevant for more of the match, rather than only being a ship that you have to worry about if it gets close, and it can't get close half the time just because of the meta. Anyway, guys, that's what I think about the Colombo so far. Again, a great ship, just needs a little bit of love from Wargaming. That I think she'll be an absolutely fantastic battleship. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Wednesday. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. We're on our way now to 25,000 subs. Just passed 24,100 a few days ago, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Again, guys, hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.